All right, everyone. Today we are going to sketch a rational function. And we know that rational functions deal typically with asymptotes. And so if we're going to look for, let's say, vertical asymptotes first, what I want to consider is I want to consider the bottom of my fraction. Okay, I want the bottom of my fraction to equal 0 because I know it's not allowed to be 0. And so I end up with a vertical asymptote at x equal to 5. Now, before I get too far, I should also comment on this plus 4 here. My approach to this problem is going to be, I'm going to pretend it's not there for a moment. I'm going to look at this function and then shift it up 4, because this is just a shifting up of 4. So let's do the whole thing and forget all about this for now. So the next thing I'm going to consider is my horizontal asymptotes of this function here, ignoring the plus 4. I know that the degree of the bottom is 1 and the degree of the top is 1. Since the degrees are the same, the horizontal asymptote is going to be equal to these leading coefficients, and that's a 1 over a 1. And so my horizontal asymptote is y equals 1. And then I'm going to add it up 4, so it's going to be actually 5 when I'm all said and done. The next thing I'm going to look at is my x-intercepts. My x-intercepts, I always let y equal 0. So that means this fraction here has to be 0. In order for that fraction there to be 0, anytime a fraction is going to be 0, the top is 0. So I know that x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals minus 2. So my x-intercept is negative 2, 0. And then finally, my y-intercept, I let x be 0. Plug it in, I get 0, 0. I get negative 2 fifths. Y equals negative 2 over 5. And so I have 0, negative 2 fifths. So now I can start to get a sense of what this graph looks like. Let's put on some lines here. Go here, here. And we'll put on some asymptotes. We'll put on y equal to 5. We'll say it's about here. My horizontal asymptote is y equals 1. All right, so I know that this is y equals 1, x equals 5. And when I see this graph now, I also know I have an x-intercept at negative 2, which is about here, and a y-intercept at negative 2 fifths, which is about there. All right, so now, that's all fine and dandy, but I have to find the actual function. On x equal to 5, I have two parts to consider. I have this upper region or this lower region. And I want to find out what's happening. It's either going to be above the axis or below here. From my points, I can clearly see it's going to be below. There. It has to be doing that. It follows the asymptotes, but it has to go through those points. It's impossible for it to be above. Looking on to the right side of x equal to 5, I don't know if it's going to be up top or up below. Well, actually, I do know. I could do a sign chart with pluses and minuses, but there are no x-intercepts here. If there was an x-intercept, it would have to be down here somewhere. Because it never crosses the x-axis, it has to be above up here. No choice about it. So that's what x plus 2, x minus 5 looks like. Now I have to include the plus 4. When I do plus 4, everything in that function moves up. So my y equals 1 is going to become y equals 5. Here. This is y equals 5. This point here is going to move up 4. So this is the point now negative 2, 4. This point here will move up 4 and will be here. And so I get this graph there. The red graph is my graph. And this one here will also move up. And so I end up with that. That's my graph, the red graph.